Mr. Surrency is going to give us a State of the District presentation now.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask some staff who I've talked to already to come up and just stand behind me for the purpose of, as we go through this PowerPoint in a very brief manner, I want to give the board an opportunity to ask questions, and I have our staff here to answer questions specific to some of the things in the PowerPoint. So thank you guys for coming. And again, they're just here to answer your questions if necessary, but again, we're going to go rather briefly. And the point of this presentation is we want to take time out and look at the past year. I started last year this time, and many of the people that you see up here now are in new positions or in positions where they were last year, but we are all part of a team now and have a lot of things that we want to share with you, and very proud of that. And just to show you that we are heading in a positive direction, and we have some sites ahead that we're going to continue working for. But if you would, you should have a copy in front of you, and for the audience we have on the screen, we'll be following a PowerPoint. And thanks to Felicia Cahan for spending so much time putting this together. She did an excellent job. Once again, if you look at the strategic plan on the next slide, this is the plan that our board put together some time ago, and everything we talk about today is going to be addressing your strategic plan, specifically maximizing the learning of all students. And you see the 4 different goals that are addressed to improving student growth, and each of these will touch that. Next page, we talk about accomplishments for the past year, and specifically one that touches all of our departments is that of communication. And if you look in the notes are not on there, but you have the notes in written form, and we will be providing this on our website, Facebook page, if you'd like to get a copy of that. But there's some things that we've strived to do over the past year in improving communication. Districts and schools, we've done some publications as far as around the district. We like to share what's going on in all of our schools. We've done a Putnam Pulse, where I personally send out messages that relate to important things going on in our district. We are currently doing our Thankful Days. Our district staff is going out to each school and actually serving ice cream floats just to show our appreciation. Again, trying to reach out to each of our schools. We did it today in the district office upstairs. So we are almost finished with that tour, so if you get a chance, come out and eat some ice cream with us. We're trying to connect with our district and community. Part of our structure is we created area directors in the south, in the west, and the central who are responsible for certain schools, and they visit those schools on a regular basis to support them, to help monitor their progress, and that's been very successful. We've met with a lot of community-based leaders, just trying to spread the word on what we're trying to do as a district within our community. And I'm especially proud of our Superintendent's Advisory Council that meets in all 3 areas of the county, and those committee members are made up of people in the business community and just people that are known within their community who come and give us feedback, give us input on what we can do as far as doing a better job. And that has been extremely successful. Good communication tool. Our district and business partners, again, our advisory council has been very important, and we also have connected with our Chamber of Commerce and Putnam Ford, which is another group here in town that is striving to improve the economy and the educational outcomes of Putnam County. Our district and school board, we've done a lot of things trying to connect with you as far as we're attending next week, the combined FSBA FAS conference down in Tampa, and we've had the master board training. So there's been a number of steps where I have been trying to improve communication with you and you with me as well. So that's a continual process to improve communication. Next slide. What we've done is organize this according to our 3 areas, our 3 assistant superintendents. We have finance under Ms. Odom, curriculum and instruction with Laura France, who could not be here today, but we do have several of her directors here to answer questions, and our support services headed up by Mr. Bowling. So as we go through this, let's look first at finance. And you see on this slide, these are some just general things, general accomplishments that Rhonda wanted to highlight. And in your notes, there are a number of specific highlights. If you have some questions, Rhonda's here to answer those questions. But on the slide, if you can't see that in the audience, we have revamped our investment plan, where she saved annual investment advisor fees and increased interest yield. Next thing is implemented district-wide direct deposit, and she's cut expenses as far as related to to check, stock, ink, and reissue costs. And I believe now we are now paying all of our employees electronically now. We're not using paper checks anymore. So that's a cost savings to our district. Class Wallet is the way we cut expenses by implementing a program through Class Wallet for teacher lead funds. And finally, our food service has been recognized by the District School Superintendents Association for outstanding service. Now, if you go to the next slide, this is one that we feel the most proud of, and you have been a part of, and that is improving our fund balance. And the slide, or the graph, tells it all. If you look at the years, dating back all the way to 07, 08, during the economic decline, you recall our district received money from the federal government to help, kind of prop us up for a while, because that was a severe economic time. But since that time, our fund balance has been continuing to decline over the years. And this graph actually shows 2010, 11. It hasn't been until this past year that we've started to trend upward. And it has not been easy, and each of you know what I'm talking about. We've had to eliminate a number of positions. We've had to reallocate positions to schools. We've not rehired or not filled positions. All that with the idea of trying to increase our fund balance. So we are very proud of that. Our economic health of this district has improved drastically over the past year as we go into this legislative session, which tends, by all accounts, is going to be a very testy one as far as funding. So we need to be prepared, and I feel very confident that we will be prepared. Just to put a dollar figure on what we have cut to improve our fund balance, over $2 million in general fund money has been saved over the past year. So congratulations to you for supporting us on that. Any questions for Rhonda at all on anything on that slide?
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has the direct deposit for everybody eliminated the need for paper stubs, or do we still have to give paper stubs?
It's electronic.
We're doing the paper stubs electronically. It's been a little bit of a slow get to that, but we're doing that also.
Great, thank you.
And I know for those employees that do not have a checking account, we're using the cards. Rapid pay card. So, okay, if you go to the next slide, curriculum and instruction, and we have a number of directors here to represent Ms. France. So let's look at the blue side first. District improvement initiatives, our graduation initiative, which we'll talk more about in just a minute. Our strategic plan, which, as a matter of fact, if you go to our website, we just posted our targets on our website today, and shows you what our district is actually, our specific targets for this year over the next 5 years on what we're going to do as far as improving achievement, improving discipline, attendance. All those things are very specific in our strategic plan. Our data chats, we've met with principals for our first quarter data chats, and they have come to us with specific targets in mind that we're going to hold them accountable to, and they're going to come back in January and show us what kind of progress they're making towards those targets. That's how we're going to improve this district, is each school achieving those short-term goals in each of those tested areas. So that's a very positive plan. Our area directors are monitoring that very closely. Our countywide acceleration. This is the first year that we created the collegiate high schools at Interlochen and Palatka High Schools. We've expanded Cambridge from QI Roberts. For the first time, Crescent City now has Cambridge at Miller Middle and Crescent City High School. So those kids will not have to ride the bus 40 miles one way to go to Cambridge.
I'm sorry. I've actually just talked to a parent, so they're all, can you explain that?
Yeah,
'Cause
the
I was
ones
confused.
who started going to QI are continuing. So we started Cambridge with the 9th grade. They're
Okay,
on
'cause
site.
this is a 9th grader, and he said he had the choice, and he could either stay at Crescent City or go to QI, so he chose to go to QI, so that's a choice.
Yeah, if they had a sibling already going.
Okay, because I was like, oh, well, so basically, in reality, they have a choice, but we're trying to move 9th to go to Crescent City,
Right.
and then 10th through 12th.
10 through 12, grandfather them in because they're already attending QI.
Gotcha, okay.
Right. And we started that also at Miller to feed that program.
Okay.
And the idea is we'll do, as we did with QIs, build a year at a time in Crescent City High School.
So next year it would be 9th and 10th grade and
So
so
you
on.
think the choice will quit happening when the 10th, 11th, and 12th would graduate from QI, so there would be no siblings left? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
All of the parents understand that bus transportation was guaranteed for students that were already at QI for certain grade levels.
Right.
But the idea would be that they would transition to Crescent City High School.
Okay, so like next year, or, I mean, just because this person asked me specifically, you gave them a choice in 9th grade, they chose to go to QI. But you're gonna say next year in 10th grade, they're not gonna be allowed to go to QI?
Can you email me that specific student? I
Yeah,
can get you
but
the
I would like to
specific
know if
information.
we need to make the policy, or you guys are making the policy, or what, how it's all gonna, because I don't like wishy-washing this. I'd rather across the board say, okay, so in 2018, we're gonna quit busing people from South Putnam, or are we gonna do it on a need basis?
So the idea is that students that are at QI that live in the Crescent City area, those students would be still there for the next 3 years.
Okay.
Because a bus would be physically going from Crescent City to QI.
Right.
Because students were already there who don't have the same programmatic opportunity in Crescent City. But once the programmatic opportunity is available for students in Crescent City, we're going to stop the bus coming from Crescent City to QI to save that cost.
Okay.
The ones that started will graduate from.
First year only freshman activities are available in Crescent City, so
Yeah.
the other 3 levels have to continue.
No, but right now, a 9th grader started at QI. She rides the bus from Crescent City because she was given the choice. So then I just wondered when that choice is, because to me that's confusion on if we stop, because we're going to stop the bus when the 10th graders graduate, I guess, would be the.
Yeah, the ultimate goal is to stop the bus, but I see the voluntary part, as long as the bus is running, if they wanted to voluntarily
Right.
ride, but I think the most part, they want to stay home, stay in their home school.
But the voluntary, so let's say, just for instance, 10th grade, we're gonna run it again for 10th, so we're gonna run it for 11th grade and 12th grade, so that's 2 more years on top of this. So then the 9th grader that started and had the choice this year and is at QI, they're gonna be there till 11th grade and then told, sorry, we don't have a bus.
They're all aware of that.
Mhm.
Every child I
Okay.
know of is aware of that scenario.
Okay,
Just,
that's just where I wanted clarification.
That's why it's voluntary.
Yeah, I gotcha, okay.
Okay, thanks for asking. Continue on, first graduating class with international diplomas happened at QI Roberts this past year. We increased acceleration offerings at all secondary schools. Started more acceleration classes than we've had in the past. College and career readiness, and we're very proud of this. We've increased career and technical offerings. We've increased the number of AVID schools. Actually, we have one school, Mosley, which is an entire AVID school. And we have middle schools and high schools that have AVID classes within them. And we've increased STEM initiatives throughout our district as well. And you see there's a number of initiatives in your notes that we're working on. But we are very proud again of our advanced manufacturing class that we've talked about a lot, which has started in all 3 high schools in its first year. And we've been able to fund that with the assistance of Georgia Pacific. And next year, we are looking to continue that and expanding that as well. And again, we have actually requested a legislative appropriation with matching funds to help expand that so that we can have material and space to better meet the needs of our students in the advanced manufacturing program. Do you have any questions at all of our staff, especially from about CTE or our acceleration classes?
No, I
That-
just would like to commend everyone on all the hard work y'all have done to advance us in these areas.
Well, that's where we're going to really move our district, trying to match our kids up with some opportunities for employment later on. And if we don't meet the needs of our local community, we're missing the boat. Not all kids are going to college, but we definitely need to be in tune with what's our business community need, and are we training our kids to meet those needs?
Would this be the appropriate time to ask about, I know, is this the same APAGA study,
There is an APAGA study that has taken place through our legislature, which is talking about post-secondary
Right.
offerings,
Yeah.
and that has not,
we haven't heard anything back
have not heard back yet, no.
or our relationship with,
Right,
St.
that is
John,
still,
okay.
that's still in, being reviewed by the legislature.
Okay.
As soon as we hear something, we'll definitely, report that.
What he just spoke to you about has to do with the legislative appropriation that we as a district will be seeking this upcoming session, and Rick's working on that very, very steadily, so I think we're looking good.
And not only with our legislature, we are also seeking financial assistance from our federal government. And we have written a proposal that our instructional staff put together, where we are seeking money for possible career academies down the road. And those are extremely expensive. The startup costs are, costs a lot of money to get these things going, to buy materials, to fund teachers. Thanks to you guys, you actually funded teachers to start up the advanced manufacturing program last year. But to start different programs, it's going to be very costly.
so would these be on the line, same as like the flagship schools that we've talked about in Flagler County and?
Yeah, but these would be specific to
Our
certain,
needs,
to our high
yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
And it'd be an organized program as kids
That's all.
move through the high schools. Yeah, but again, those things are
Those
not
for
cheap.
years.
But that would be a great thing to happen in Putnam County if we can make that happen.
Oh, absolutely.
If you go to the next slide, the thing our instructional team wanted to point out, and in your notes, the amount of money that our staff is able to bring into the district is unbelievable through grants and entitlements. We have competitive grants like the SIG 3, SIG 4 grants, the JFG, which you saw the presentation last week with Ms. Hopkins of the last board meeting.
Yeah.
That was funded by a grant,
Okay.
JFG grant, 21st Century grant. There's a number of competitive grants that we've been able to get this year, and there's entitlement grants that we received from the federal government. But I do want to point out the total amount of money that is brought into this district is over $15 million through a combination of all these grants, which helps meet our instructional needs. So kudos to all the people who spend time writing those grants, because if we just depended on what the state of Florida sends us, it would be very tough. But we have people that go after them. And writing grants is not an easy thing. You can write them, but getting them funded is a different thing. Any questions of our instructional staff before we move on?
Under the entitlement, is this the first year we got UNICEF? Under the,
Yeah, so,
is that's the,
UNICEF, we used to get a portion of Title I School Improvement Grant, and that was with the Schools of Hope legislation under Senate Bill 7069. That was that money was converted into UNICEF.
okay.
But it became more of a dedicated pot of money to be used for certain situations depending upon school grade
Gotcha.
and classification of the school.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. We go to the next part on support services, and this is the area that's headed up by Mr. Bowling, and he's here to answer any questions. And it's like Mr. Bowling says, when you know you're doing a good job, when you don't hear when you don't know what's going on, because it's such a smooth operation, it's when you hear complaints that the bus is not running right, or the computers break, or whatever, that's when you start hearing about our support services. But when you don't hear about them, that usually is a good thing. But let me just highlight some of the things listed. Transportation, hiring bus drivers has been an extreme challenge for us. And our transportation department, along with Mr. Bowling, have been very creative in hiring drivers. We've actually gone out there and used some tactics to try to entice people to apply for drivers and help pay for some of the costs of background checks and driving tests and all that. And they've been successful in doing so. But we have enough buses. We just need drivers. They've improved our routes. We've had some bumps in the road, so to speak, in having our routes. In some places in South Putnam, we've had to run double routes. But he, and along with Sharon Spell, have done a good job in trying to reduce that. Our IT program has done an exceptional job with School Messenger, Canvas, Florida Code. A lot of the improvements they've made are benefiting our schools. Efficiency, upgrading our facilities with new energy efficient equipment. And we've talked about the audit by Florida Power and Light. They've gone through and have done a complete audit of our district, and we will be holding a workshop about that in December to tell you more about the audit and what our next steps are. But our goal is to try to reduce energy costs and upgrade our equipment so that when something does fail, you know, we're in a position we can replace that at a efficient cost. Our maintenance improvement, just some examples. If you go to Palatka High School, you look along the fascia, the brown fascia, that's been replaced. That's long in coming. Crescent City High has had a problem with drainage. If you go out there, the ground is, you know, every time it rains, a lot of that's washed away, but we've made some big improvements there. And of course, the support during Hurricane Irma is unbelievable. We actually highlighted one of our employees during that time, but we have so many people in our maintenance department that have stepped up and really kept our schools safe and also have contributed to our community. So if you would take a minute and just scan through there, through all those notes, see if you have a question about anything. I'm very proud of what our IT department is doing as far as spreading the word through our Facebook, Twitter, and our website. Our big thing is we're trying to improve communication, and the number of people we reach out and touch every day with what we're doing is very important. There's also a reorganization of our human resources department. Ms. Whitehurst is here. She's made a lot of changes, I think, especially reaching out and trying to improve our hiring and retention practices, which we'll talk about in just a minute with our next steps. So if you have any questions at all about
What
support,
fresh
let us know.
service?
Say again?
Fresh service?
Fresh Service is a new ticketing system. We used to use Help Desk, but it's just a new way to for teachers or just personnel to submit work orders.
Oh, okay.
And not only that, it also allows for feedback, so they can tell us exactly what they thought of the customer service piece. And beyond that, they're tracking the response time. They try and triage things by what level of
Importance.
or repair that it'll take. So if it's a thing that they can do in 3 hours or 3 days or 3 weeks, they just put it in the correct category, and then they work to improve that turnaround time.
Okay.
And Fresh Desk helps them monitor that.
Thank you, Thomas. You know, as a former principal, the biggest challenge has been when your IT or your internet goes down or your Wi-Fi goes down, you want service right away. You don't want to wait several days because instruction depends on it. So Mr. Bowen has been very sensitive to making sure when there's a work order coming through that it's addressed in a timely manner. If you turn the page, again, remind you about our mission statement for the district. We will inspire every student to think, to learn, to achieve, to care, and to become a successful and responsible citizen. So with that said, let's look at what our next steps are, our vision for the future. And again, I've been telling you this over the past year. Our number one vision for this district is to move from the lower 10% in the state as far as districts go to the upper 1/2. And that's not going to happen overnight. But that is our ultimate goal. As a matter of fact, our targets, our strategic plan targets that we've created over the next 5 years are actually designed to meet that goal. So, but we're not going to do it just hoping and wishing. We have a very organized plan to do that. But again, let's look at our three areas: finance, curriculum instruction, and support. And let's just summarize some of the next steps that we have. As far as finance goes, we're continuing to increase our unrestricted fund balance. The more we can put back and save for the rainy day and when things happen, the better off we're going to be. We're going to increase our breakfast participation with breakfast in the classroom programs, and that's been we have a number of schools who are serving breakfast in the classroom, and that's been a benefit. Kids, it's hard to learn when kids are hungry, when we ensure that they are fed each morning. And we also want to implement our wellness plan as part of we talked about that with our insurance. Again, we're trying to have healthier employees, educate them on the benefits of being healthy. Curriculum instruction, we have our graduation initiative, which we'll show you a slide in just a second. And we've done very well with that, and we are looking in the mid to late next month in December at our next graduation rate from the state. So we'll update you on that. Our strategic plan targets, which I mentioned to you just a minute ago, are available on our website. And again, we'll continue applying for competitive grants. One grant that we talked about is that TOPS 3 grant for our schools and turnaround status, which can pay us up to $2,000 per FTE if awarded. So again, we are eligible for that grant, and we'll keep you posted. They've already awarded some schools, 11 schools out of the state of Florida have been awarded that, and there are 14 schools remaining to receive funding from the Department of Education, and we hope to receive some of that money. Finally, our biggest thing is in curriculum instruction, we're working very hard to reduce the number of low-performing schools, and we're partnering with some other outside agencies to give us assistance in doing that. We talked about that with Mosley Elementary. You know, for example, we're partnering with Learning Sciences International and are working very diligently trying to bring that school grade up. As far as support goes, increase efficiency in departments to better serve our students and employees. And again, it's the things you never hear about, but it's behind the scenes stuff. We've got to put teachers in the classroom. We've got to get kids to school and back home again. We've got to feed them. And all that's going to go on, and the better we can do that, the better our schools will be. Next page on partnerships. We have an intentionality on trying to reach out and to other people within our community, specifically our local college, our local community groups, and our businesses. And by doing so, for example, partnering with the Collegiate High School with St. Johns River State, also with our welding program, we're reaching out and have partnered with FCTC in the past. Our advanced manufacturing program, we're working with Georgia Pacific and Seminole. And most recently, our STEM 2 Hub program, which Dr. Coleman can tell us more about, is an exciting program that's really going to look at some occupations for the future. And you see some of those. The Web Crew Bicycle Club, where kids are actually building their own bicycles, and our coding training at the elementary level. But again, we can't do that in isolation. We're going to have to reach out and work with people in our community. Go to the next slide. Our graduation rate is one thing that our business community is looking to our district. If we're going to bring in outside business, if we're going to increase employment, we must bring up our graduation rate. And if you look, starting in 2015, we were at 55%. And we've gone from 55 to 64% in 1 year. That was a huge jump. And you see our goal is to move up 4 percentage points per year. So we've got a good start. We are actually anticipating that we're going to exceed that goal this year. I don't want to say that yet, but we're very optimistic that we're going to exceed our 4 percentage point goal for this coming up year. But as you know, we've hired graduation coaches. We have a very explicit plan over the next 5 years. We have early warning signs and so on that we're following to make sure that we are on course to improve our graduation rate. Next page. Attendance is another area. If we're going to improve achievement, kids have to be in school. And we're addressing that more on a tier 1 level right now. All of our schools have things in place to encourage kids to come to school, to reward them for coming to school, and make sure we make parents aware of how important it is for kids to be in school. Our ultimate goal is 90% of our students attending school 90% of the time by 2021. I want to point out, at the end of 2016-17, our district had 70% of our students attending school at least 90% of the time. At the end of this past quarter, in October, we had 78% of students attending school 90% of the time. 8% jump. So we are moving in the right direction. And kudos to our team for all the things they're doing. When you go out to the schools, ask the principals, what are you doing to improve attendance? And they have a lot of very visual things that you pull up into the school just to remind parents and kids attendance is important. We even have some principals that are going, when parents are late getting their kids to school, they go to their car and ask them, how can we help you? What are some things, not to challenge them or confront them, how can we help you help get your child to school on time? So we have a lot of emphasis on that. Next page on maintenance. Again, we want to make sure all of our schools look good, because when you're in a school that looks good, you're going to perform well. So Mr. Bowen has made it his personal drive to inspect all of our school grounds to make sure we're doing everything we can for the outside grounds, the outside appearance, to make sure kids are in schools that look good. Next page. Another big push of ours, and Ms. Winehurst is here, she can address questions. We have a teacher shortage, and we have to do a lot of things to attract teachers to come here and stay here. And we have a lot of things, in, as you see listed, intentional things to attract teachers, and we will also want to grow our own teachers. But Ms. Winehurst, you have anything you want to add to that? Or if you have any questions about what we're doing to attract quality teachers?
Doing a good job.
We still have positions now that have not been filled. So that's pretty disheartening, but we're not giving up. We're still going out there and trying to attract the best people.
What areas are we?
It's not just a district issue. So that's a little bit of a relief in some sense, but it's very sad that it's a nationwide issue. When every conference that I've been to, any kind of meeting that I've been to, the universities are reporting that the students who are entering into the College of Education is decreasing every year. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that that I have a goal of is we have to start showing all the positives that are happening in our school system, and the power of what we do. And so, you know, there's a lot of research out there that says, like, for every negative thing that is said, you need anywhere from 7 to 10 positives to overcome that negative. So that's one of the things that we're really going to start working on, is pushing positive promotion of everything that is happening in our schools and in our classrooms, and show that teaching is not a bad thing to do. It is, in my opinion, the most important thing that anyone can do. I mean, we have the future that we are truly impacting. So that's, but it's very disheartening to know that a teacher shortage is nationwide, and so it's not necessarily just, it's not about Putnam County. It's about education, unfortunately.
And I think one of the most important things that we can do for a new teacher is to support them all year long.
Yes.
And one of the biggest things I hear, not just with new teachers, but with all teachers, is discipline. And we've got to support them, and especially with the new teachers. And we get a lot of new teachers that didn't specifically come through a Department of Education at a college. you know, going and taking the, they don't have that classroom management training, to help them support their discipline in the classroom. And our principals have got to stand by them and, support them with that.
Well, just to let you know, next Thursday, we're doing our fall beginning teacher support session. And the whole focus is really about engagement strategies and procedures and management type techniques for both secondary and elementary of our teachers that have less than 1 year experience.
That's wonderful.
And I was just gonna say that, you know, there's a possibility when we start looking at recruitment that we not overlook, you know, Bethune-Cookman and try and bring in some minority educators
ma'am.
as well.
Yes, ma'am. And the great thing about,
I would be willing to, even though I'm a rattler.
right.
I mean, I'm a rattler, I graduated from A&M, but I'm just saying, it's right here in our back door.
Right.
And
It's,
certainly,
Hey, I'm just
there's,
oh no, I'm a rattler.
the spring, there will be a lot more recruitment opportunities happening in the spring, because when you have the fall career fairs at universities, there are a few that graduate in December, and we do have one that we're going to next Friday at UCF. But if you look at like statistics, it's not, you don't get a return on investment on putting a lot of it into the fall career fairs. So it's really like if you're in the middle of the year, it's really hard to attract at that time, but in the spring, you have to prepare for the following fall. So we'll be doing a lot of that in the
Well,
spring.
and another thing we're fighting against, and this goes along with what Rick said earlier, you know, businesses and, building developments don't wanna come to Putnam County because of the school system. It's a vicious cycle. You know, how do we draw new people here and ask them to live in Putnam County?
This plan.
I know,
Yeah,
but that's what I'm
I'm
saying. It's
agreeing.
just kinda all part of a circle that, you know, we're fighting at every level.
Well, we need to have, and we're working on an organized effort to use our media to really paint a positive picture of Putnam County. Because, you know, we've gotten a bad rap in the past, but we're going to change that. And another,
One of our hashtags. Yes.
right,
Hashtag I love my job, hashtag impacting the future, hashtag proud to be PCSD.
Absolutely.
you know, another thing too, if you're a teacher and you have a spouse, a lot of times they need a job. Or especially a young teacher, they might have to get assistance in putting down a deposit for a rental or whatever. There's a lot of things that we have to look at, that some barriers to teachers moving here. So,
Finding places for them to
right,
live.
finding quality housing is very important. So, anyway, that's where we're heading. If you look at the last slide, I borrowed a quote from Ronald Reagan that kind of sums up what we're doing here. And again, this is not an overnight thing. This is something we're doing over a number of years, but each generation goes further than the generation preceding it because it stands on the shoulders of that generation. You'll have opportunities beyond anything we've ever known. So keep in mind, you know, we're trying to put our young people on our shoulders right now and give them some opportunities that they otherwise did not have. For the first time, they're going to have some career and technical opportunities. They're going to have some acceleration opportunities. They're going to have some things they never had before, thanks to you guys. So we need to continue to give our kids opportunities, and they will be successful. And we'll continue to update you throughout the year.
Well, and I think partnering with the St. John's River State College with Boys Can too and Girls Can is, you know, a wonderful opportunity for us to get those kids there so they can see what's out there for them.
They need to dream. They need to see what's possible. And those two events out there were wonderful. So great opportunities. So thank you all for your attention, and we just want to go through this. And this time next year, we'll update you on how we've done. And I want to personally thank our staff for all the hard work they've done and their willingness to come up here. Thank you. Thank y'all.